Good evening, everyone. Today we'll be discussing on the topic Rebirth of the author function in the age of AI. So we all have a question. That is why we are all here in today's webinar. So in today's concept, we three will be talking. This is Dr. Sudhamshu and this is Dr. Ritika. So we'll be covering the area on what is AI, what is literature, and what can we learn today. So looking back at Dr. Sudhamshu, so he'll be talking about the history of the authorship of AI, and we'll be discussing on it as well. So yes, sir.
So good evening, everybody. So we'll just set the stage for the podcast or dialogue, which is the idea of what is authorship, if AI in the age of AI, what do we mean by who is an author, who gets to become an author, and we talk a lot about how AI and technology has democratized access, how anybody can become an author. But these are questions that have to be investigated a bit more deeply to understand their ramifications. So first, I think we can start with the idea that these two words, author and AI, we need to investigate them a bit more closely because these are not transparent terms.
Yeah.
Like the author of today is not the author of
yesteryears,
right? So I think we can start with that, which is the history of authorship. Like if you look at the history of authorship, it begins with you can see as to how authorship in itself is a historical concept that's constantly changed. It's not remained static. Like let's say we start from the oral age, which is the age of orality, where mostly we had folk cultures, right? So I think we can start with that. That's a good discussion. I think just before we started the podcast, we were thinking about the podcast. We are thinking like nobody owns a folk tale. There's no Suhash folktale or Sudhamshu folktale. Like, you can't own a folktale.
Exactly.
So who writes a folktale?
Yeah.
So a folktale is a classic example of a story in which there are really no authors. Just that you become a medium through which the folktale travels through you. Right? The author does not have a location. That's why most of these folk singers and folk storytellers were travelers. They were nomads. They would travel from one land to the other, and they thought of themselves as mediums through which the story could travel through them. Right? There is no defined authorship. So I think we can start with that.
Also the fact that they're very performative, so it depends on how you present it rather than what it is and who the person is. So like you said, it doesn't matter, the who doesn't matter as much as the what and the how
matters more.
Okay.
Right. The idea of like identity. It doesn't matter that Homer wrote Odyssey. That Homer's personal, like when we read a modern poem or when we read any modern text, you would think, okay, what did the author go through during that era for him to have written this way? We don't ask that question when it comes to Shakespeare.
Exactly.
We don't ask that question when it comes to Homer.
Exactly.
Because these were stories that were written to be told.
Exactly.
To be performed.
To be performed.
And the author himself saw of himself as not he didn't see himself as the origin of the story. Right? He saw himself as only somebody who passed on the story to somebody else.
Correct.
Right? And so this idea of authorship as ownership, where an author owns the story that he tells, comes with printing. So printing is where you properly see like people writing and publishing stories of their own. And this is where I think romanticism actually I think for people who would be unaware of what romanticism is, we can start with that, then look at the history of how authorship moves from the oral age, goes to the printing age, printing era, and from there almost in the 18th and you could say 19th century is when we see the rise of romanticism.
The printing press, it started around 1600s, right?
6 years.
And then it came around. So
I think maybe we can talk about romanticism and how would you say that sort of affected the idea of an author?
So very simply put, romanticism is, we don't want to confuse you with jargon, etc., but it's talking from emotion. It's creativity, and Wordsworth, all of you must have heard, is one of the most famous romantic poets. I think the very first to actually write about romanticism. And he's the one who said that it's a spontaneous overflow of emotion. So romanticism, the focus shifted to creativity, originality, emotions. It wasn't a mechanical thing where you're just writing. So
He even, if I remember, he even bought a little bit of Rust. He was focused on the rustic people, right, most of the time.
yeah,
And then he focused on their language, their culture, and he said that people should not focus on being more aristocratic in writing. You should be more free in writing.
yeah.
I really remember that part
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
So that's where the emotion comes in to writing, into the picture. And that also links it to originality because it's my piece of writing. So like you had said earlier, that earlier there wasn't this thing of, okay, Suhash is writing, Sudhanshu is writing. But now in the romantic era, that would matter because that's it's come from your heart. So
Yeah. So I think this is the age where like you see the term poetic expression.
exactly.
It's an expression of, the text is what you're writing.
Extension of
It's an extension of you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it and this actually she said emotion,
Yeah.
Spontaneous feeling of
overflow of emotions, where poetry, not just poetry, any text
any form of writing
becomes reflective of its author,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? And this is where the what we call as the author actually comes to be.
Yeah.
An author with a name, with an identity, with a certain, like if I tell you that, I think the best way to explain this to people who would be confused is, if I tell you that I'm reading a detective novel, you will be like, okay. But if I'm telling you I'm reading an Agatha Christie novel, then the name of the author will
make us
mean something.
will mean something because it has certain expectations. You will go into the novel thinking this is going to be a good novel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this idea of the author, I think that is the larger thing that we wanted to discuss, is that it's not some free-flowing word. It has a very specific function, which is that in the time of copyright, when copyright laws came, when printing came, when publishing came, it was equally important to even establish the idea of this individual author, and he has an aura around him.
Yeah.
And people would go to read the books of, let's say, some 19th century author, precisely because there is this aura that has been created around him.
Yeah.
He's an author,
exactly.
which is not something that you would see a lot in the age before the coming of publishing and writing.
True.
So yes, I think romanticism is the key movement through which you see the idea of genius.
Yeah.
The concept of genius also actually comes through romanticism. The artistic genius, creative genius,
Exactly.
like Beethoven being the musical genius, poetic genius in the concept of Keats and generally the idea of genius.
Yeah.
Because then when you read a text, like again going back to our example of folktale,
Yeah.
a folktale does not have an origin. When you read a folktale, you don't say what a genius folktale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Because a historical connotation,
and it's a community project. I think that's also something we forgot, which is that older writing, like oral cultures, they were communal cultures.
Right.
It's not like
the shift to individualism is what also
and the shift to like individual author comes only in the 18th, 17th
century.
Also, I think capitalism also is a huge
owning your means of production, very Marxist.
Yeah, I remember there were some women writers who used pen names to write books. So, do you remember any of them, or
many, like George Orwell?
George Eliot.
George Eliot.
But
so Eliot and somebody else also, right?
I mean, that's also a good point. The sense that when we talk,
identity,
when you talk about the idea of an author, it's not like an author. Like that's what we were trying to say. So that it's not a neutral term. Even who could be an author, like a female author in the 18th century, did not really feel comfortable to use her name
for many societal reasons.
So she felt more comfortable using a masculine proper name. So authorship is not some neutral. It's very much
the person.
And it's also very much a political choice. Who gets to be an author? Who gets to speak? Who gets to write?
And this, even in the feminist movement, this was a big thing because earlier women were not taken seriously. So if she used her real name,
they would have not taken her very seriously.
Exactly. So,
makes sense.
Yeah. So coming back to our point, which is that the idea of an author comes from many people argue that it comes from capitalism. That you all start owning property. And just like you own a property, you start to own a text.
Yeah, exactly.
So the idea of authorship becomes related to ownership. That you own the text. That if this is Salman Rushdie's text, he owns the text. Or like this is Milan Kundera's text, he owns the text. Like because he has written it, he has complete authority
over it.
over it.
Yeah.
Like he gets to decide what the meaning of the text is, which is not, again, just one of the reasons I keep comparing to folktale is because you can read the folktale any way you want.
It won't matter who who owns it.
Who owns it. And there's also a lot of flexibility of interpretation.
Yeah.
You can interpret it the way you want because there's not one central figure who tells you how to read
a folktale
in this particular way, right? Which is not the case with a modern poet or a modern text, which is that you have to read it this way because this is what the author felt.
Which is why there are multiple versions of a folktale. You'll hear like 100 versions in different cultures, but you won't see that with these novels. Like you won't see Rushdie's multiple versions of the same, say, Midnight's Children or something.
Exactly. That's a good point. That fluidity is... Actually, we think of modernity as being very fluid, but it's not.
It's actually the other way around. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very localized. Like I think, harkening back, which is along with the author is also born the reader. Because Wordsworth is writing to the, like he said, to the local, to the rural, to the rustic, to the pastoral. He's writing to an audience who knows what he's writing about.
Exactly.
So he's writing for an audience. He's writing for somebody who he knows will read him because they have read works of his before, or they at least have some expectation of what he's going to write about, which is again not something that you see a lot because mostly most of these earlier, immediately after the oral age, you had the scribal age where people used to have scribes. In fact, the word author comes from octor,
which is a Latin
word. So they would be the ones who could write down,
literally write, describe,
and who would write on the margins. So the author always used to work on the margins. So and the author moves away from the margin and comes to the center through printing.
It's also very symbolic.
Actually,
how it functions,
So that's one thing. So coming back to the history, so it begins with the idea of an author. Like we said, it begins with, it's not a universal concept. It's a historical concept. It keeps changing. Who is an author? Who gets to be an author? This is not the only era where authors felt like they were at threat. There were also eras before this where people felt like what the idea of an authorship was slowly, fading away. Right. So
also one thing we can maybe put a pin on, since we are talking about this, the shift from folktales to the romantic period. That's what brought in this idea of originality, owning, like you said. This is very relevant to AI also, because now this central question is, did you write it or is it AI? There's this whole copywriting, this, that. So we can maybe just, when we discuss AI, just keep this shift
this
in
is
mind.
A good point, true. And interestingly, AI is, we'll come to that later on, but it's also, it's like the acceleration of this tendency where, where author writes for somebody, he writes for an audience, but he should not sacrifice all of that for the audience. It's not, he's like, there's an audience, but you write, of course, you have the audience in mind, but AI is completely prompt driven. Its whole response is towards what it feels this person who's asking me would like. There is no sense
to adhere to the prompt rather than larger audience.
But this is
true.
Good. We'll come to that. Okay. So similarly, just like we sort of deconstructed in a very rough manner the history of authorship. But similarly, something similar can also be done to AI. AI is also what we call AI today. It's not the AI of yesteryears. Starting from computation, then to machine learning, then to deep learning, right? Then to generative AI. AI has not remained this automation. What we call automation is not the same. So both of these terms are actually changing with each historical period. So that is one thing that the trends are worrying, which is that authorship is under some kind of attack. But it's also part and parcel of being part of history, which is that you are constantly
it's like any historical subject actually.
Any historical concept, which is that it's constantly evolving,
changing.
I think this is a good segue into the concept of, I think that our webinar is called Rebirth of the Author. So that's a reference to Death of the Author by
Roland
Roland
Barthes.
Barthes. So I think if one of you can say what that text is, or why we felt this is a good appropriate term to start.
Yeah. So Roland Barthes says that, the moment you write a particular book and the moment you write a particular, poetry or anything, the moment it's published, okay, it's the death of the author, because it goes to the audience at the end of the day. So once it goes to the audience, and the audience can criticize it however they want, they can look at it however they want, and that particular concept is what is taught. And today in this webinar, I think we are going to deconstruct how it is not actually that particular concept, but how much different it is now that AI is in plan today.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, I think also what is maybe you can just give a context as to why Barth wrote the essay, why he felt that the concept of the death of the author was important.
Yeah. So at that time, a lot of importance was given to the author. So it was like the intentional fallacy that we were talking about, where you try to assume what the intent of the author is. So Barth,
what is intentional fallacy? Can you just
intentional fallacy? Sorry, it's where you assume what the intention of the author is. So if you're reading a text, you'll say that okay, the author probably used blue because they wanted to symbolize melancholy, but maybe the author didn't have that in mind. And what Barth is trying to do is say that it doesn't matter what the author thought. So he just brought in the shift of power from the hands of the author to the reader. So gave power to interpretation. So just it was more of a power shift at that time.
Okay.
So that's it.
I think Barth says something very interesting. He says that the death of the author is the birth of the reader.
Birth of the reader.
So that once, because like we were saying, authorship became so, especially with publishing and printing and culture, it became so paramount that everything had to be read through the lens of the author.
Exactly.
The author wrote this because he had depression, or the author wrote this because he was going through conflict within his own. So everything had to be read through the prism of the author.
Even you can compare singers today, famous singers, their life, their thing, they just write it as songs.
So that I think was the first limitation, because then you can't read a text without the author's shadow lurking in your reading of the text. He has to always remain there. So then why read a text at all? You can just talk to the author.
Exactly.
Right? So the whole point of a novel is you want to encounter something that is much more multidimensional. Right. So and the mistake that we do currently with AI, we also will come to that, which is that the AI creates something out of nothing. Ex nihilo, called ex nihilo. Is something that many people were doing with authors in the 20th century, that they thought that there is an author and because of romanticism, he had a genius idea and he wrote that idea in a text. That's not how it happens, right? AI is based, the whole architecture of AI is based on millions and millions of data, which AI scores, scrapes through to give you a response. The author is no different. Right? The author is part of a larger history, larger social setting. He does not work in isolation. He's responding to certain
social
movements, politics, history, culture. So he's also, this idea that we create something out of nothing. It's not true. Even before him, there used to be literature, and even after him, there will be literature, right? So the author is just one part of the larger process.
Exactly.
So that's what Barth was trying to emphasize, that you should see him. I mean, he's important. He writes the text, but he's not the only source of meaning. He's not the origin of the text, right? Because he draws inspiration from society, from the text that he has read before, from history. So then how can we call him as the origin of this text?
Origin of the text. I just remembered something regarding Shakespeare as well. Shakespeare, while I was learning, his dramas and plays, you see, he does not take a particular focus or a particular area like Marlowe. Marlowe, though, is famous for tragedy, but he focuses on a particular area, a concept, space, a time, and
action.
Yeah, that is where he focuses on. But Shakespeare has a very different approach. He randomly goes through the area, he meets people, and if he sees an Italian, he'll be like, okay, I think I should put this particular concept inside my play. Randomly, he'll go somewhere, he'll see a Romanian. Oh, I think this Romanian is quite good. Let me put him inside. I think that kind of
lived experience.
Lived experience.
Another thing you can't.
I think that's the right word. It connects with what you're saying. Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
like I think the author is also just taking. It's like a patchwork. You're taking things
Yeah,
from here and there. You know,
Yeah.
what is it? He calls it a tissue.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
Yeah.
the tissue of quotations.
Tissue of quotation
is
it's
what
called. Okay,
Bart says, which is very well put. It's like a collage of quotes from here and there. And by quotes, I don't think he just means quotes. It's more of, like you said, lived experiences.
What is the tissue of
So
quotations?
Yeah,
Can you just
what is it
elaborate?
called?
it's like putting together. Imagine a collage of posters, etc. So it's like putting together what other people have thought, what your experiences are, your interactions, your experience with culture. So bringing together all of that. So like you said, it's not just one origin. It's not just one source. It's a
collaboration
of
things together.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So the author is not the sole creator of a text.
Exactly. Yeah.
He draws inspiration from
everywhere.
Multiple
everywhere. He takes a
sources,
patchwork, like she said, tissue
Yeah.
of quotations. I think you're discussing. Levi-Strauss calls it as
bricolage.
bricolage.
Yeah.
Bricolage is somebody who something very similar.
Same thing. Yeah.
What is bricolage?
Bricolage is like you take something from here, you take something from there. Like the modern man, like best I think example I can give is James Joyce's Ulysses.
Yeah.
Ulysses, which is like he takes from multiple sources, from Irish poetry, from Greek legends. So the whole text, the text in itself is a coming together of multiple inspirations, right? So
allegories,
symbols.
Yeah, what is an allegory? I think not many would know.
Allegory is basically this reference to something. Usually it's seen as a big event or something that's either mythical or in the Bible, but now it's used as a common thing to refer to just references. Basically.
Okay.
So if in my text, if I refer to Rushdie's Midnight Student, I don't know why that example is in it. So that will be an allegory to Rushdie's writing.
Okay. Yeah. So the text in itself and the author in itself does not work in isolation. He's responding to things that came before him and things that will come after him. So to say that he's the only one that matters when you're reading a text, it's like saying that when you're watching a movie and you feel completely different about the movie, and a friend telling you, no, that's not what the director meant.
Yeah.
Or that's not what the director intended. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who cares what he thinks? He knows what he intends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can see it with my own eyes that this is what the film is saying, telling me.
Yeah.
Right. So this is what I think. So this is what death of the author means. Death of the author does not mean like a literal death.
Yeah.
It means that the author is important, but he doesn't have the final
say of what he has written.
Right. So what happened is when AI and AI writing, AI especially, many people sort of use this concept to defend AI. Which is that, Barth already said death of the author. What does it mean? Why does it matter? But this is where I think we can discuss the author function. Foucault's author function. So maybe if you can speak on author function and
do you want to?
I think I'll go. Yeah. So author function is basically Foucault's. Michel Foucault was a famous writer. So when Barthes wrote this whole concept of a death of the author, where he says that the author is not the final say on his own text, right? This is where Foucault says that it's not that easy. Like it's like I think we were discussing the example of Tagore. I can say that Tagore is not. I can read the poems of Tagore any way I want, any way I see fit, but that doesn't mean that he does not play a
role in
no role, or he does not play a social function. Right. I mean, that will be disproved to me the moment I go to Calcutta and I see his music being played. So he obviously plays some function, right? He plays some role. So the word in itself carries such prestige and
function.
So that is what Foucault says, that when we talk about author, an author is fulfilling a social function.
Correct.
Like it matters that experiments, my experiments was truth was, or like Hind Swaraj was written by Gandhi,
right?
Because the name Gandhi being attached to the to the label of author has a huge function to play, which is that he's writing for a
particular cause,
particular historical. So it's not just enough to say that the author is not important, or that the author has no role to play. He has a huge role to play. He fulfills a social function. He uses the word discourse, but I think that'll be too
technical for
it. But okay, we'll keep that aside. But the author fulfills a social function. So it's not just enough to say that the author is not important. function does he fulfill?
Yeah.
Right? When we talk about the author, what are the conditions that he's setting? So this is also important.
Correct. Yeah.
So maybe we can discuss something on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I think so far we have spoken so much, and if you all have any doubts, you can start posting on the chat box, and people will start replying accordingly.
Yeah.
No? Yeah.
And
So you were saying?
just bringing your own example of detective novels, you said if you say that I'm reading a detective novel versus I'm reading an Agatha Christie novel, I think that's a good example of this author function, because you automatically have an association. If you just say detective novel, it's very general. But Agatha Christie, you expect certain things. You expect quality because she's one of the best.
One of the best. Yeah.
So yeah.
I think the example that you gave, which is that why don't textbooks
Yeah.
why don't textbooks have authors? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we have because we Indians love studying. So, Adi Sharma, we have some, but we encounter so many textbooks, but we don't really say a textbook was written by an author.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It was a very interesting question actually.
But we only think some books have authors. Why don't textbooks have authors? Why don't manuals have authors?
And the way you're saying is, I remember syllogism. Some books, no books.
So why is that we only assign the word author
to certain books,
to certain types of writing? That's because authorship, like we were discussing in the context of romanticism, means intelligence,
exactly,
means genius, artistic genius, creative genius,
which is associated with creativity,
writing,
which does not usually, we don't associate it with textbooks, especially school educational textbooks.
Anybody would hate that.
Exactly. Yeah. So even if people, like, let's say, plagiarize a textbook, a 9th class, 10th class textbook, I mean, it's not good.
Yeah.
But that would be seen in less of a crime than, let's say, I plagiarize a famous author.
Jane Austen.
Exactly.
Jane Austen. I plagiarize Jane Austen. Yeah. So this is also this is what I think is a good example of author function.
Exactly.
That the author
plays a certain function. Otherwise, there wouldn't be this distinction. Via some books or texts, assigned an author. Why is that more important versus, say, a textbook, a school textbook?
Yeah.
So we were also talking about this example where in English, if you have Jane Austen as a prescribed text, you will say, I'm reading Jane Austen. But in, say, physics, you won't say, I'm reading a text by so and so.
So you won't remember.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You were saying, sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah. So that's what I think is the idea of an author function. That in every historical age, the idea of an author fulfills certain functions.
Yeah.
Right now, the function that an author is supposed to fulfill is he should be original.
Yeah.
He should be accountable.
Yeah.
He should be what you would say. Yeah, like there are certain ideas of ownership that you have, right?
Yeah.
Let's say if an author writes, like the whole fiasco that happened, I think, let's say with let's say an author writes a controversial book.
Right.
So because he's an author, authorship also means accountability.
Yeah, 100%.
We can hold him accountable.
Rushdie's
the whole Rushdie's fiasco. So let's say somebody writes a controversial book.
Yeah.
We call him an author because he has written something that he can be held accountable for.
Yeah.
That, and also which he claims is his original output. These functions are slowly dying away with the coming of AI.
Correct. Yeah.
Because certain functions that the author used to fulfill, like originality, what you would say, trust, accountability, credibility.
Yeah.
Like let's say if you say that I have written in today's era, if you say that I have written a book, and if somebody asks you, "Oh, did you write the book?" You know, it's completely ghostwritten by AI. I mean, I don't think anybody would respect you in that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But if you say I have, even if it's a bad book, and if you have written it on your own, people would see some merit in it, right? So the functions that an author used to fulfill are now changing.
Yeah. In fact, originality is valued even more now because you're capable. Because this is an option where you can actually ghostwrite a book.
Yeah.
So people actually value, like you said, it may be bad writing, but they'll say, okay, at least this person has written it on their own.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think we were discussing something on the form. Form is very important, right? So that can explain about the form.
I think we were talking about that in the context of like every text has every book or every text has a content
Yeah.
and has a form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just I think the best way to explain that would be, let's say you're watching a movie, right? And basically all the movies would, especially Indian movies, all of them would have the same plot,
Yeah.
same content.
Yeah.
But what makes them different? Which is that they'll have a different form.
Correct.
This movie would try to present it that
by this director. This director.
Yeah, and this form, like in this particular manner, right? Or that movie would present the same story in a different manner. So what makes difference, textual difference, like difference between two texts doesn't come from content.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why if I take content from, let's say, from ChatGPT and from Claude, I can instantly make out that.
Yeah, it is written.
Because it's the same content.
Yeah.
What makes something different is the form. Like I impose a form onto it.
Yeah.
I organize this text in a particular way.
Yeah.
I make certain choices, and those choices can be not just conscious. I can also make unconscious choices. This character should come here. That character should go here. Or not just fiction, even non-fiction books. This should be my opening argument.
Correct. Yeah.
So form is what makes
a book a book.
What it
right?
is, yeah.
I think a better example would be to say that, let's say, both of three of us have to take the. I mean, we have had instances where we have to teach the same text
to different classes.
But what makes us three different teachers?
Correct.
Because we have our own form in which I deliver the same content.
Yeah.
Right?
Kind of, yeah.
So form is what distinguishes
between people.
Style. We were talking about style.
So maybe that's something you can say. We can speak on that.
On style.
On form and style. Yeah.
Form and style.
Yeah, so basically what you said, but style is, like we were saying, it's like ideas plus the form. So what makes your writing yours? And like you said, a very good example that all three of us can teach the same text. We'll be given the same, like 1 hour, but we'll all do a different job. Even if we plan earlier that, okay, this is what we'll do, even then it'll never be the same. So I think style is like what makes a text yours, which can also be drawn back to the idea of originality, ownership, because like you said, form is what we can link to ownership, what makes it you.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think we were talking about how style is like, every individual has their own style.
Yeah.
Style of speaking, style of writing.
Yeah.
The narrative
ChatGPT doesn't really have a style.
Yeah.
Because style, ChatGPT writes everything the same way.
Yeah.
Even if you ask it to write in a different style,
it will come back to the same way.
Yeah.
Because style is social. I have a different style because from a very young age I'm seeing you and I'm trying to differentiate myself from you. Or let's say if I'm an author, if I'm a budding author, I tried to invent my own style because there were authors who came before me and who will come after me.
Yeah.
So style is my mark, it's my signature.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? ChatGPT cannot really have a style of its own. Because for style you need to live in the social
realm.
Social realm of activity, right? Where you constantly distinguish yourself from other people. So that is one. So in one sense, the author is dead.
Yeah.
Both in a philosophical
way,
but also in a legalistic way that what we call as authorship is slowly dying away.
Yeah.
Because God knows how many blogs that we would have written that AI would have already been trained on and is actually
creating
content.
Even voice is mimicked and duplicated in 11 labs and other things.
So in that sense, we have lost. If you are sticking by the old idea of what authorship is, then that's dead. The author does not fulfill those same functions. But if this, I think AI can actually is giving us an opportunity to rethink what authorship means.
Technically.
Which also brings us to an interesting question. How do you know? At this point, like you said, it mimics voice. It's becoming so close to human ways of talking, etc. So how do you
differentiate what is right and what is wrong?
So we were talking about this case, this Jamir Nizar, who's an author.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so he's an author who wrote a short story.
What's his name, sorry?
Jamir Nizar.
Jamir Nizar.
So he wrote a short story. I'm forgetting the name. But basically he was accused of using AI. And it was a huge case. It went on for a long time. And he defended it saying that, why does polished writing have to be associated with AI? Why can't I just right?
Yeah, right. Paul.
And he had to defend himself, saying that he had some condition apparently, because of which it was similar to OCD, I guess, where he'd keep going back to it and rewriting, which is why it's so polished in that sense.
Oh, okay.
So finally, the judge, this actually went to court, and the judge said that, okay, this is original. But this is just one example, and like you had pointed out, this came to the limelight because this was a prize winner, this short story. But there may be so many texts out there that we don't know whether
It's actually an
it's
interesting
written by
point that something is too polished, too refined.
Yeah.
So there was this one professor who I was talking to. He said that what students do now when they are turning in their assignments is that they deliberately make errors.
Yes.
So that
actually.
error is so. Making error is human.
Is human. I actually had a student of mine tell me this, that a teacher apparently accused her that you use AI, but she said my vocabulary is good and I write well. So now she actually goes back and does that. So
makes deliberate errors.
That is sad, yeah.
Punctuation errors.
Yeah, it's like
don't use
make
M-dashes.
errors and AI is like perfect.
Yeah, that's the irony of the soul.
Whereas the whole point of idea of artistic genius is that you could be perfect. You could be the perfect craftsman.
Exactly.
So that's what. So these old ideas of authorship are slowly changing, dying away.
Yeah. In a weird way, coming back.
Yeah. The cycle is repeating in a different way.
Yeah, true. Actually, I do think one positive outcome of that would be is that if when authors start writing without really any kind of like financial or like social you could say reward, then that, because now if anybody can write using AI or anybody and anybody can attain, like I think we were talking about that Japanese author also.
Rama.
So she had written this text.
5% of AI, right?
Yeah,
5%.
So there was a Japanese author who won the coveted Akutagawa Prize, and she was apparently after she won the prize, she revealed that she had used AI for almost 5 to 10%. The 5 is what she was humbly accepting.
But actually there's
criticism around it.
So the real figure might even be more, when 20 to 25%. So that, in a way, I think once people sort of move beyond this idea of ownership, idea of writing for money, or idea of writing for social acclaim, and go back to the real idea of authorship, which is writing purely for the sake of writing.
Yeah, true.
For the style of writing. So that's why I say AI is actually offering us a new way to rethink what authorship actually means. I think.
So I think in this context we are coming to like more than one speaker, right? Is that the AI is one speaker and the author is the other speaker. I think we're talking about Derrida and Bakhtin, I think so.
Yeah.
Any of you can remember on that?
Okay, so this is a bit too complicated, but
trying to simplify.
But basically, what this means is that a text. One of the problems with AI is also is that let's take a normal text, any text for that matter. A text is by nature intertextual. What intertextual basically means is that when I'm writing a text, or when I'm writing a story, when I'm writing, let's say, a novel, I am writing it based on my readings of other novels. Right? Because it's not like I just start writing out of nowhere. I start writing because I've read novels before me. I have read poems before me.
Correct. Yeah.
So that imprint of those texts, the traces of those texts will be in my text. Whether I like it or not. So that's what intertextuality means. Like once I start reading a text, I am actually
reading multiple.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the multiple texts that are linked together. With AI, the problem is AI has the same structure in its architecture, which is that it basically is based on millions and millions of texts. But once you read the final finished product, it doesn't really feel intertextual.
Yeah.
It feels a very...
because it's a very limited world. At the end of the day, it's AI.
It's AI,
it's not gone out. It's not gone beyond that social realm. So even the intertexts in that sense, when it comes to AI, it'll just be stuff that humans have fed it. It's not that the AI in itself has experienced the world. So
I remember one of you guys talking about like people are, laborers are using some kind of a headgear or something, and then they're training AI.
Yeah.
Do you guys know anything about it?
Yeah, so this is also what we were discussing, I think, which is this, we have this idea that AI comes out of nowhere,
Yeah.
but it's not, right? It's based on our, like,
Exactly.
like
The
what,
whole ex nihilo thing.
yeah, like we have created the internet, like all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
By when so AI scrapes to the internet, and it's also based on like years and years of training on
Yeah.
data that already existed,
Exactly.
right? So this is also another. So let's say when you read an author, we usually use the personal pronoun I,
Correct. Yeah.
right, or he,
Yeah.
right, to designate an author.
Hmm.
But can you use an I or a he for an AI?
Yeah. Exactly. What do you call it?
What pronoun is
Yeah.
it? Like where does it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Where do you even start the dialogue or
Yeah.
a conversation with? So
True.
So these are things that I think that's what I think coming back is that our old ideas of authorship are dying,
Changing and dying. Yeah.
but it does offer us new possibilities to rethink what authorship
Actually.
is. I think we have some questions
Yeah. Just looking at it.
So from the audience.
from the audience.
Yes.
Okay,
We do
there
have
are
a
many
couple of
questions.
questions. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. So there's one question from Ananya Ravishankar.
Yeah.
There is some auditory disturbances.
I think it's not a question. That's a
themselves. Yeah, that's not technically on. Yeah,
It's
but just letting people know. Okay. So I think while we are talking, they were all putting in chat box the Bronte sisters,
Okay.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
What was this
And-
in context of?
Yeah.
Bronte sisters, I think, was
Yeah.
the pseudonym.
Pseudonym, yeah. And they said, like Pope said, bad authors become bad critics. Yeah, they remember the class. I think some of them, which I taught, they remember from the class as well. Yeah.
If you
Okay.
want some.
I think we can go.
Should we see?
Yeah. Can you see this one? I think Sania's.
Let's see. The style, Kirti has said.
Yeah.
Vladimir Prop is a good example, actually. Has given a list of actions that define the form of a folktale. I think this is very relevant to what we were talking about, the form. However, it's the ingenuity of the author that will make one text different from the other. Yeah, that's a very good point,
That's a-
Shweta.
Yeah.
Sanya
Sanya.
says, I was curious to know your thoughts on what about texts or discussions happening in different types of social sites.
Oh.
So, is there authorship in Instagram captions? Is there accountability present in tweets? Because they readily pose narratives for a good amount of followers. So, after being risen in a platform, do they transform into readers? So, can authorship be this generalized and accepted? That's a very
that's
interesting
very,
question,
very, very
Sanya.
Yeah, actually, because we don't think of YouTube comments
As
Some
a
of the-
literature or as a
literature, as
text.
authors.
But
yeah.
it is actually, it's very relevant because this is the text that we are consuming on a daily basis.
Exactly.
Because
So-
authorship is also legal. Let's say I write a huge Twitter thread,
Yeah.
and tomorrow, let's say somebody copies
Yeah.
writes a book and
Yeah.
copies my Twitter thread
And post it
and
somewhere
post
else.
and post it, and let's say interprets or post it as his own thoughts.
Yeah.
So then I can claim authorship there,
Yeah.
right? Even though I wouldn't generally consider myself an author because I'm
A tweet.
because of a tweet.
Yeah.
But like I said, author function is about this.
Yeah.
Author function is the author has certain functions,
Hmm.
and one of the functions is legality,
Yeah.
accountability.
Yeah.
So we invoke the author function for multiple reasons. Sometimes we invoke it for inspiration or
Yeah.
originality. Sometimes we invoke it for legality.
Yeah.
So it's not like a metaphysical, some philosophical thing to be
Yeah.
an author. It's a very precise thing.
Yeah.
Like let's say, you have invented not invented. You had a thought on your Instagram.
Hmm.
You wouldn't think of yourself as an author, but if somebody steals it, and
Yeah.
that moment, immediately at that moment,
You become an author.
you become an author
Yeah.
because you invoke the author
Yeah.
function,
Exactly.
Absolutely.
right? So the author function is very local, very specific.
Yeah.
It's not a, like, what you would say, a historical. I mean, it is historical, but it's not like a universal
Yeah.
thing.
I think today this Foucault's idea is much more relevant than it was back then because
Yeah.
of social media.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's one more
Stuff.
question. So,
Basira says textbooks are designed to communicate concepts and establish knowledge rather than highlight the author's personal expression. Certain laws, theories, or theorems are named after their inventors or discoverers. The focus remains on understanding the concepts. Creative writing, however, is closely associated with its author because of the author's voice, style, and the literary genre central to the text. Yeah, that's again a very good point.
But to challenge that point, we also say Einstein's general relativity.
That's true.
Hmm.
But
And
maybe
actually,
like the creator of a theory versus.
in fact, people talk about Einstein as a creative genius more than a scientific genius.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he thinks out of the box.
Yeah.
Even back in the day, he was thinking out of the box.
So,
Yeah.
in fact,
But
what his
maybe
name?
nowadays textbooks are more
Who
of
is
a
it, Nikola Tesla?
collation.
No, I think the general relativity I forgot the date, 1905, I think, general relativity theory. That paper, that whole text is
Yeah.
actually named after Einstein, even though it's technically a textbook,
Right.
a scientific textbook, and we don't generally associate authorship with science.
Yeah.
But
that's
we
true.
do call it, the text in itself
Theory.
is considered to be a monumental, actually, an
True.
interesting text. So,
Yeah.
so that's the thing. The things that we think of as being authorship are not like, these
Set in stone.
set in
rigid.
stone.
Yeah.
They are historical.
Yeah.
They're very much historical.
Yeah.
Who tells you that authorship should only be creative
Yeah.
and not
Or-
just not just scientific or
Scientific
textbook?
yeah.
So these are all historical, you would say, historical ideas of
True.
what an author is.
Yeah.
So these historical ideas are what exactly is being challenged by the coming of, I could say, AI.
Yeah. Right. Okay, Shweta says, isn't AI taking over all arts, not just writing? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
So actually, when we're talking of text, we don't literally mean text, even though that's the thing that comes to your mind first. But text can be a form of art, Instagram captions, like Sanya said. So images, all of that. So definitely. Kirti says, how does AI connect or attribute to the rebirth of an author?
So that's the thing. It's a rebirth because it offers us a possibility. As one of the I think the reason we put it as rebirth is because it gives us a possibility to rethink what the author is.
Yeah.
Right? What can the author do? If your idea of an author is somebody who's still based on the same functions that the author fulfilled 20 years back, then that author is dead.
Yeah.
But it gives you a chance to rethink and also have a new birth of an author.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So if your idea of authorship is ownership, if your idea of authorship is let's say authority, mastery,
capitalist definition.
that author is dead.
Yeah.
But if your idea of authorship is style, like we were discussing,
form,
or
expression,
then that author is still alive, very much alive. And in fact, there is no better time for you to be that author than this era.
Actually, true.
I mean, AI is just a tool. It's not something you can depend on. Though most people, I'm sure even after today's webinar, will be like, yeah, everything is fine, we'll listen to this. But at the end of the day, you start depending. So I think human dependency on AI is the actual reason or the actual problem that is you have to think about.
I think rebirth of an author, what you said, rethinking the idea of an author would be a better way to put it. Where it's more about how we look at the idea of an author. It's not that the author is changing. It's more like what we expect from an author.
True.
Sri Devi says, if we consider Foucault's concept of author function, will an author's personal beliefs or actions influence how we value their work? So, for example, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series perceived differently because of the controversies surrounding her views, or do we apply Barth's idea here and separate text from the author? Again, a very interesting question.
This is a challenge.
This is, I think, a perpetual challenge that has been constant through the
separating
ages,
the author and
the text. How far do you? I think we've spoken about this very often, where you love a text, but then you come to know that the author was problematic, was a misogynist. So do you now hate the text, or can you make that distinction that, okay, now I like the text?
You can, because I mean, this is my view. I mean, because since we have established that the author does not work in isolation. It's not just his text.
True.
Right? He has taken it from
somewhere.
From the social world.
Places,
right? It's not like I'm not saying we are entitled to money or something, but we are entitled to the right to interpret the text the way we want.
Yeah.
Right? So since he's drawing his work from a pre-existing social body or social intelligence, that's not just, I mean, of course, we're not denying his
Yeah.
efforts,
Yeah.
but the text lives on its own,
Yeah. That's true.
right? So it doesn't, I mean, of course, it matters. We have to hold them accountable. And if
Yeah.
somebody like J.K. Rowling, who's still living
Yeah.
and still is still
And
profiting,
still
profiting.
championing her.
A champion.
Yeah.
So that is a different conversation. But I'm saying the text in itself
True.
must be assessed on its own merits,
Yeah.
then bringing in to point of view.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is not a question that we would ask. Let's say, if would we ask the same question about Homer, or would we ask the same question about Shakespeare?
Yeah.
Why is it a question that we only
Yes.
ask about, like, what would it matter to me if, let's say, Shakespeare was a thief or a murderer? It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I can read Hamlet the way I
Yeah.
would.
True.
In fact, I think I just came across this fact, I think yesterday or so, that Geoffrey Chaucer, who's considered the father of English literature, he was actually arrested for a very horrifying crime. Yeah. But how does that matter?
Yeah.
I mean, it matters in that sense, but once you understand that, we don't apply the same standards to those authors,
Yeah.
then we would to like modern authors.
Yeah.
Because it's part of our idea of what an author is.
True.
We understand that, in modernity, an author means something different. In pre-modern ages, the author meant something different.
Yeah.
Right? So,
True. I think this also shows the shift that we spoke about from the oral tradition to the romantic. Because oral tradition, it didn't matter so much, the ownership, etc.
yeah.
I think that's why, like you said, Shakespeare texts, we won't really question Shakespeare's character. It won't matter.
True.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kirti says J.K. Rowling wrote under the name Robert Galbraith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shweta says, where does tool end and co-author begin? Again, a good question in case of AI writing and co-authorship. Yeah, we were actually talking about
This-
co-authorship
Yeah,
also.
so collaborator. This is the new word.
Yeah, collaborator.
Yeah, actually, AI can never be a co-author at the end of the day. Like, once again, like I was saying, it is just an AI tool. It's a tool.
Yeah.
So it can never be, though it is helping us write something, does not mean, it actually gets ownership of it. It's still debatable today, but
Yeah.
still that is
I
the...
think one thing people need to remember, which they often forget, is like we said, that AI at the end of the day is just collecting from what we have fed into it. It's not a creative genius.
Correct. And also, you have a dialogue with the co-author.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
can't really have a dialogue with
With AI.
Yeah,
this thing.
it does not have emotions.
Yeah.
Or,
Like,
It doesn't, like you had pointed out,
Yeah.
it doesn't care about
Yeah.
the output.
And it
Who's
does not have any
reading it.
intent to do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
It just does what we ask it to do.
Reshma says, do you think AI is creating a completely new era of writing?
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
we are
I mean,
entering
I think
that
this is the first
zone.
time, I think, in human history where I was reading a report recently that almost it's the first time in human history where AI-driven content has actually overwhelmed
Yeah, exactly.
and overrun human-written content.
Actually,
So most of the things that we read, actually, we might not even doubt it, but it's actually written by
AI.
AI. So
Yeah.
this is a challenge, actually.
Yeah. And we were saying how Amazon is dominated by AI
Yeah.
texts.
AI text, AI
Yeah.
books.
So,
Few more left.
just 2-3 more.
I think, Shweta says authorship is related to intent, vulnerability, and consciousness. Absolutely, vulnerability is a word we forgot to talk about. That's where AI is more about probability and rehashing information. Exactly, that's what. So AI is basically picking up on what we have fed it. Radha says, are people now being employed to infuse human feeling for AI work?
They were, I think.
Human feeling, they are trying, but I don't think. See, AI. For those of you who know AI, it's fine. But for those of you who do not know, AI is a large language model. It just recognizes patterns of information, and whatever we get is just a pack of information, and it will concise according to how we want the information. To just draft and give it to us.
Like a repackaging.
Yeah.
Of,
So it doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Kirti says, but having said that, if AI is there, your author is dead too. I don't understand the rebirth part of it. Sorry if I'm not being able to frame my question. No, we get your question, Kirti. I think that's why I said that rethinking would be a better way to put it, because rebirth is a big connotation.
Yeah.
And then define the purpose of the title of the webinar. But
the rebirth in the sense that, because it follows from the idea of the death of the author.
We are picking
death
up
of
on
the
that. It's a
author.
reference to
Barth's text.
Roland Barthes'
exactly.
text.
Yeah.
Death of the author.
That's why death and rebirth. Yeah.
So right now, anyone can write a novel or anything.
Yeah.
But-
accordingly, you have to just use it properly.
Maria says, the discussion on ownership of writing by the author, it brings the question to publish research work in non-open access journals. Authorship is given credit, but knowledge is owned and behind a paywall. AI writing on an original thought by an individual versus ghostwriters doing something similar.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
most of the things that we attribute to AI, like plagiarism,
Mm.
or like we know
Mm.
this is a word that is quite popular, which is slop, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
That YouTube is filled with AI slop, or
Yeah.
like AI is not
Mm.
AI is not original. These were complaints that existed even before the coming of AI as well.
Mm.
Like academic plagiarism is not a recent AI-driven
Yeah.
phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's been
So
there
kind of like
since
the need
forever.
of the
Yeah.
hour.
It's
anyway.
always been there.
Yeah.
Academic
Yeah.
plagiarism has always been there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Unoriginality has always been there.
Yeah.
Lack of, let's say, integrity or ethics with regards to research has always been there.
Yeah.
So AI unfortunately becomes a scapegoat for most of these
That's true.
Mhm.
problems, but it has always preceded it. It is
Mhm.
only now accelerated.
Yeah.
So it has only accelerated the disorders that existed within our social domain to a larger extent,
True. True.
right? So these two problems won't begin or end with AI as well. That's a
Yeah.
different conversation. But
Actually.
so that's why I said, the author function is also a legal function. It's
Yeah.
as much as it's as it is an ethical function, it's also a legal function.
True.
So
Yeah.
these ideas of legality of authorship, of what it means to be an author and how to be an author ethically, these are also questions that we have to rethink.
Yeah.
And that's why we use the word rebirth. Like
Yeah,
it's
true.
an author is having a new birth, really.
Yeah.
It's that this era is kind of defining authorship in a different
Yeah.
Mm.
way altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, it existed before AI. So even ghostwriting is not a new concept.
Not a new concept,
It's
exactly.
just that it was done earlier by humans and now
It's done by AI. Yeah.
So I think we are coming to the end of our
Yeah,
webinar.
just
We'll just take
last
another
question.
last two
Yeah,
questions.
I think there are just two left.
Yeah.
Kirti just observes that we've discussed this a lot in our classes and it gives you what you've been asking and it's nothing new or innovative. Okay, Ananya has a question. The emergence of AI in creative field does make one question how to approach writing and what is the definition of an author. Even as a tool, it can't be ethical and it does cause significant cognitive debt where books now use unalive and clear signs of AI usage that is generating literature slop again. My question here is, what is expected of an author? Now, besides stylistic choices, for example, I have seen certain ways ChatGPT writes, like not X or but Y,
Mhm.
or excessive M dashes are expected not to be used by a human writer anymore. So, what is expected of an author besides the stylistic choice?
Yeah.
I think the concept of embodiment,
Yeah,
which is what you're
we were
discussing,
talking about. Yeah,
which is that an author is, you read a text because it is unpredictable.
Yeah.
You can't predict its structure. You can't predict where it's going because the author is literally embodied. He is embodied in a social world. He's observing things around him and then writing this text.
right.
Then choosing a form, then choosing a style. So as an author, I think what
Last question.
we can do is to go over this obsession with details,
Yeah,
because AI has pretty much cracked the race for details.
yeah,
It can give you like details and
Number of
details and
Right.
sentences, but the larger idea is the idea of craft,
yeah.
is the idea of craftsmanship,
Mm.
the idea of which requires patience,
Mm.
which requires diligence,
Mm.
which requires deliberation, which requires, like, no, I think you're discussing struggling with the demon of creativity.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
so that requires a lot of
Patience, focus.
and it's not something that is very instantaneous,
Yeah.
like an AI prompt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right?
true.
Yeah.
It's something that, so style and craft is something that is very much, I would say, something that is
Yeah.
very much, that comes only with time.
True. Even
Yeah.
Wordsworth says the next line after spontaneous overflow of emotion is collected in a moment of tranquility.
Yeah,
So even though he says spontaneous, it's something that
Collected
you
in a
need to
moment.
sit.
exactly,
and-
exactly.
yeah.
Yes, that's a very good observation. That there is no reflection or collective, what do you call it, or no recollection in AI.
Yeah,
It's only instant.
exactly.
It's only spontaneous.
You ask
So-
it a question, it gives you the.
It gives you an answer, but maybe like I said, we have to go back and rethink what an author is,
Hmm.
what an author should do,
Hmm.
right? Because one of the reasons why we see so much of AI
Hmm.
around books being published is because there's such a immense pressure on visibility, on publishing as many publish or perish,
Publications,
publish or perish.
Yeah, it's Maria was just
Yeah.
typing the question.
So that is these are attitudes that existed even before AI.
Yeah.
No, this need to publish, this need to
Yeah.
put yourself out there.
Yeah.
So my argument is that, or our argument rather, is that AI is giving you an opportunity to move beyond these ideas of authorship
True.
and rethink what authorship really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do not relent to the need to publish. Instantly publish. Sit on it, develop your craft, develop your style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that
Right
is
for
what,
the sake of writing.
right for the sake of writing, right? Without any form of reciprocity,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, you can just prompt a book, but you can never actually write a book.
Yeah.
You know? I think that is another question we have to take today.
Yeah.
I think we can close
So,
with the idea that Derrida says that writing is an infinite task.
It's an infinite task.
You keep postponing
Yeah.
the actual.
Yeah. The indefinite. Gives
Yeah,
a
there are
word.
authors who write for years together and
Yeah.
bring
What was the word?
I think
Deference.
Deference.
difference and difference.
Difference, yeah.
Right, you never arrive.
Indefinite
There's never a
pause.
point.
Arrive at a.
Yeah, there's never a point in which you say, "Oh, this is the
Yes.
best thing ever."
Yeah.
Because the whole point is, the writing is the perfect moment of writing is always postponed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is true. Very
Mhm.
relevant to that.
So yeah,
Yeah.
think-
I think,
Should we
yeah.
stop? There are a few. There's one question that Ananya has asked. Can you trust AI's feedback on your original writing?
never.
This is
Never.
I think
because AI is known to hallucinate. This is
Yeah.
also something we didn't
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about. But
exactly.
it's not
not just
trustworthy.
also it's kind of psychophantic. Just
Yeah.
agrees with everything that you say.
Everything, yeah, this is another thing we were
So-
talking about, you know.
So I think
Yeah.
it'll be better to give it to a professor who's hard on you, or to a friend who's quite
Honest with you,
very
yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah,
to give it to an AI.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It gives you what you want to hear. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kirti said. Should we take two more questions? There are two.
Yeah, last one.
Okay, Carl has said, did anyone ask about what changes might have to be made to research manuals such as
Carl.
APA, MLA concerning citing AI? Yeah, that's a very
Okay.
real and
This is also a problem
relevant
because
question,
when we are taking something from an author, we know the source.
yeah.
With AI, it's almost as if, I think it's like there's no one
There's no
source.
source, you don't know.
Yeah,
where-
so when you cite AI, it has scored through 15,000
Exactly,
textbooks.
Mhm.
How do you know where it has taken this
Yeah,
particular
exactly.
information
yeah.
from? So this
And,
is
This needs to be done.
Yeah,
Carl.
and yeah, and I think even sometimes when I've used AI sometimes to find some sources, it has given a clear, specific outline that this is a particular source, and it gives a particular DOI, gives a particular HTTPS link. But when I click the link, it goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
Some other
These
thing
are the
pops up. It's not the actual thing.
hallucinations
Yeah, it
and the-
hallucinates a lot.
yeah.
So yeah, the
Yeah.
idea of sourcing, this is what I'm saying. The idea of attribution,
Hmm.
all of these are legalistic also, not
Yeah.
just like you attribute.
Concepts.
Yeah, exactly. You attribute somebody because you will face legal
Mhm.
consequences.
Exactly.
Of course, they're also ethical.
Yeah.
But these ideas, I think, are more. We are finding more difficult to maintain these ideas
True.
in an age of AI because
Yeah.
attribution is getting difficult. How do you
Yeah.
attribute a AI content?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where does it
Exactly.
take?
Mm.
Let's say if I'm asking it to give me a what you would say, a piece on
Mm.
let's say the recent economic crisis. It takes from 15,000 different sources and gives me a 5-paragraph
Yeah.
prompt.
Prompt.
How do I ask it to cite it?
Mm.
Mm.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Still a problem.
it's the idea of
So, yeah.
sourcing. I think recently UGC has also made some mandates
Yeah.
to penalize AI writing.
Yeah.
Mm.
But again, like you
But
said,
again, how do you tell?
How do you
how do you
tell?
tell? How do you-
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even AI detectors are extremely unreliable.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
this is, like I said, this is a challenge.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I think we'll go with one final question.
No,
and
I think
wind
there's
up
only one
completely.
left. Premnath has said AI is a tool where it stores data and information. If someone wants to acquire knowledge, it will give it to us. But in the future, even AI will develop in the way that AI will naturally work like humans, which is already kind of happening. So, what's your opinion on this? In that point, human authors will be reduced.
It's not that human authors will be reduced. It's just that, like I said, we have to redefine what the author function is.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to completely think out of the box.
Yeah.
What does an author do? What does
Yeah.
not author write
Hmm.
for? When you invoke the word, like we said, when you invoke that I am the author, what do you mean
Hmm.
behind
By
that
that?
invocation?
Yeah. Change your.
What functions are you? Let's say when you say I am a teacher,
Hmm.
the word teacher is fulfilling some functions. No,
Right.
it means function.
Mhm.
One function is authority.
Yeah.
I am the teacher, so please be quiet.
Yeah.
I am the teacher, so I know more than you.
Yeah.
Right. So when you invoke a word,
Hmm.
it fulfills a lot of functions.
Yeah.
So when you same thing also goes for author. When you use the word author, now we are talking about accountability,
Hmm.
originality, like all the words that we
Hmm.
discussed. These words are going to change. These functions are going to change.
Hmm.
Yeah, how we think about writing a book, how we think about writing poetry, how we think about building stuff. I think
Yeah.
this is something we have to think about.
The image
Yeah.
of what an author in itself is
Yeah.
True.
is going to rapidly
Hmm.
be redefined, I would
Yeah.
say.
But like he said, and we also said that it's very tough to tell, and also it's mimicking humans even more by
Even
the
more,
day.
it's getting better.
So I think we don't really have answer to that.
Yeah, I think the
Where
moment
you
we
go.
cut down all data centers, we'll be able to. Yeah, but yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So is that?
I think we can.
Yeah.
Wrap up.
Yeah, we can
Yeah, we
conclude.
can wrap up. So, yeah, thank you all for joining us today. So it was wonderful to see so many people here, it's enthusiastic, and we loved all your comments, and we loved all your questions, and we wish to talk more, but you also have a lot of things to do, and we wish to meet you in the next webinar. So I hope to meet you all again, and we're happy to be here once again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.